What's good, family? This is the Playmaker podcast. I'm your host, Reggie Coleman. We got my guy back with me.
DJ Bean,
And,
co-host.
and before we introduce our guest, I'm not going to call him a special guest because he's family now. But before we do that, I want to welcome y'all back to the podcast. I know it's been a while. I was behind the scenes for the most part, producing and recording two other friends' podcasts. So I'm back on the screen with my guy Bean
We
and
here.
our special guest today. Even though I just said I want to call him special, we got Steven Adams back again. It was over two years ago. We had him on, but welcome back, bro.
It's good to be back, man. I
Good to
appreciate
see
y'all
you,
having
man.
me on. It's good to see you guys. Excited to kick it and chat it up with y'all.
So before we get into what we talking about, for our new listeners, since it's been two and a half years, just tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, where you from. If you want to tell them where you play football at, all that good stuff.
Sure. So Steven Adams from Hamilton, New Jersey. From Trenton area. I went to Nottingham High School, won a state championship there in 2012 as a quarterback. Went on to play punter at Delaware Valley University from 2015 to 2019. Ended up being a two-time All-American punter there, and had some professional opportunities following. Specifically played in the spring league. I want to say that was 2021, spring of 21. And, after that, I had a variety of different workouts with multiple NFL teams. I worked out for every NFL team, actually, XFL, USFL, you name it. But, since then have stepped out of football and in a different phase of my life, different part of my life now. But, that's where I've been, what I've done so far.
So before we talk about that next phase in your life, not to talk too much about it because y'all can go back to the last episode and watch it and learn about his football background. But just to ask you this question, how hard was the transition from like leaning out of football and like trying to find your career and your job?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, and I would say that fortunate enough for me, what made it easier was kind of like it was progressive. So I think for a while there, I want to say it was like 2.5 years. I had kind of like gone all in on football. It was football 100% of the time, and once things got real for me, ended up having a baby with my fiance, and life just happened. It became like, obviously we got to make money, you got to take care of real things and, prioritize different things. So, from there, I was still trying to stay with the football stuff, honestly, and kept it up for a little bit. Got invited to the XFL, USFL combine, went to both, performed at both. But it was that time in being away from the baby and away from my girl that like really set it all in perspective for me. It helped me understand like this just wasn't my priority anymore. This wasn't the lifestyle I wanted to live. And fortunately enough for me, it was pretty easy to come home and just, kick it with my family and, start working in the real world, living in the real world,
And so how was that? How was your, I think she's your fiance now, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So your fiance, and your family, how did they take that? Like, I know you still wanted to play. I'm sure you guys had conversations about that. Were they supportive of you, like, if you wanted to keep going, go, or how was that support like?
I think it was 100% on the table for me to take it whatever direction I wanted to. And I think just for me personally, that time away from Kaysen was just like, it hurt. You know what I mean? Like, he's growing, he's learning, he's doing different things. I didn't want to be that guy who missed his son's first steps, like didn't get to see him, kind of like become into his own and having the, ultimately the option to do one or the other. It was, again, just very clear for me. And I think their support and like, hey, you could still go with this, you could still do this, was like, hey, that's amazing that you feel that way. I appreciate that. But this is actually like, all me, just where I'm at, how I feel, why I'm making this decision. So it was cool. I appreciate the hell out of them. I love them to death, for supporting me and riding my back the way they did. But, I think also having that support in the decision I made and, not, giving me flack for it, standing by me, like appreciating the fact that I wanted to be a present father. It made it, again, just an easier transition for me as an individual.
Gotcha. I got a question. On that day when you made a decision like, it's done, I'm done with it. Like, can you tell us how you came up to that during that day? What was your day like?
Yeah.
What were you doing? Did you just like say like, look, I'm done with this?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty funny. So I'll tell you what, it actually wasn't really till recently where I was able to come to that.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
think for a while, like, you know, I was kind of on the fence. Can I do it? Can I not? It's something I could come back to maybe. You know, as a punter, you kind of got all the time in the world, you know, to get your first shot and to make it work. So, you know, I think for a while I'm like, all right, like, you know, maybe I should try, maybe I shouldn't. You know, it just wasn't sitting right. Maybe I could come back. Maybe I could try this because I see so much of what everybody else is doing, right? So for me, it's like, oh, I'd love another chance. I'd love to get back into it. But I think coming into the Boys and Girls Club and, you know, getting a feel for the environment there, the people I was working with, the mission and the goals that we're trying to accomplish there, it really resonated with me as an individual. So I think, you know, the more I started to be in that environment with that community, see my impact and my effect directly, like in front of my face and the value in that. For me, again, it was kind of like a no-brainer. You know, like I found somewhere where I was welcome, somewhere I'm accepted, somewhere I'm appreciated, where my ideas, my creativity can flourish, and I can utilize that to my advantage and the advantage of others. So once I really like found my home, if you will, you know, in my career, it was kind of like, you know, I want to be with my baby every day. I want to make an impact in my community. I'm right where I need to be. So I don't need to outsource or try to make, you know, something bigger than what I already have. I have a lot in front of me. I'm appreciative of what I got. And, you know, to not come up to that goal, like of playing in the NFL, yeah, it might hurt a little bit. It sucks, but
Definitely.
I'm appreciative of how far I made it. And now, you know, this next chapter, this next step.
You ever get it? You ever get that itch?
Yeah.
Like you want to go?
I mean, football just started, right?
Yeah,
so,
I know, right?
You know, you see these guys, you see what they're doing. I'm watching the Jets game last night. The Bills punter hits like a 36-yard line drive that gets housed for the win. I still feel like I could do better than that, right?
Yeah.
But you know, it's little stuff like that. Honestly, I know definitively the biggest point is like I could never take that time away from being away from Kaysen. And you know, again, seeing the changes, the rapid changes that he's going through, and how he's developing as an individual, I know it would only hurt him for me to step away.
Yeah.
Right.
Understood.
So
very understandable.
It always comes back to that point for me, and that's why I can still sit here, have a smile on my face about it, that I'm comfortable with the decision, because I know like it's not time for me to kind of chase my goals and dreams anymore. Like I did it, I went there, and again, I found somewhere where I can still actively pursue different things in that line. But it's time for me to help him reach his and get him to where he needs to be, so he could be in a good position to chase whatever he wants to in life.
Very understandable.
So speak about your role at the Boys and Girls Club. You touched on it a bit, but share what you actually do, your title if you want to, but talk about that.
No, it's awesome. So I started in January only of this year as initially the assistant team director. So kind of collaborating, trying to piece together what the teen program was going to be looking like for the kids. And it was very I was very much in the background, tried to learn as much as I can, try to soak it up, just had to kind of be in my place, if you will, at the time. Things happened, pieces moved, so I eventually got put into the position of now being the lead teen program director. So with that being said, now I have the opportunity to make this whatever I want it to be, right? I get to provide programming and really a variety of different services for these kids to ultimately come into and utilize and get exposure to that they're not getting exposure to, whether they're at home, they're in the street, whether they're in school, right? We know a lot of what school teaches you isn't really utilized when you get into the real world, right? So I'm trying to now build a program that offers these kids different class opportunities to learn different skills that they'll take into the real world.
So as assistant team director, I saw you had a series going where you had different speakers come talk to the kids, whether it was in person or Zoom, I believe. What made you do that, and why did you feel like that was important for you to do, to have those kids listen to people of different walks of life, whether it be sports or business? Why was that important for you to do that?
Yeah, and I got to give kudos to your dad, because honestly, he was a big proponent in all of that, just initially with the idea. But I know what that did for me, listening to other people talk, hearing them, hearing their stories, hearing their experiences. And I think, I didn't get real exposure to that till I got to later in high school, if not into college. When I really understood the impact and the meaning behind the messages that I was getting, it was a little late for me. Right. So I think the cool part is that I felt a very positive connection with the kids, and they listen. Right. And if I can get you to listen for 2 to 3 minutes and just hey, this is why this is important. Now they're going to give that extra 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes to the speaker who comes in. And if they're preaching something valuable, something beneficial for them, especially if they come from a similar background, there's now the connective piece that we can build. And for me, what I've noticed is like kids really take to like not like when people sound knowledgeable or they sound credible with what they're talking about. And I think when you're able to understand like, wow, this person has a similar background as me and this is where they're at in life now, like, wow, like what did they do to get there? And it doesn't always have to be like I want to be them. I want to be exactly where they are. But like if they're successful, it's like, okay, how can I create my path to success to at least hit something similar?
Yeah. So my bad. You good?
No, go ahead.
So with that being said, how did you choose, or did you choose the people, and also how did you choose? Like, I'm sure you got a bunch of people that you may want to come on in the future, but you had to probably pick a certain amount of people for that series. How did you choose, and what went into that decision process?
I think it's like the people I know, like the individual they are. First off, it's like, are you a good person? Like, two, like, do you have credibility? You know what I mean? Like, is there some type of credible background you have to support what you're going to be talking about? You know, kids care about that stuff. But you know, really, it was like, is this person going to be able to connect with this audience? I think that's what like the biggest piece of that was, is like, can you reach these kids and can you actually share a message that they're going to hear, and not only hear, but receive, take in, and actually like apply. Gotcha. So it was very selective, and I'll be honest, like being that this was the first time I did this, there were a few in there where it was like, they didn't care at all what this person had to say. They weren't their type of person. They didn't vibe with them, right? So you saw immediately that there was a disconnect and that, hey, like they weren't really listening to what you had to talk about. But it was through those experiences that I was able to kind of learn what the like target area needed to be, how the person maybe had to sound, maybe look, like where their background needed to be, because their interest, I got to know them more, right? I got to know the kids more, got to know their interests more. So as I built my relationship with them, I was able to provide them with more authentic people to ultimately give them a message that can, you know, help them or not, but either way, put something in front of them that they at least care to try to listen to or learn about.
What is the biggest difficulty you've found to have when dealing with teens?
Oh man,
especially in this generation.
Wow, that's a really good question. I think they care too much about other people's opinions.
Yeah,
social media has done them a true disservice
Gotcha.
to thinking that like likes and views and shares dictates like if you're popular, if people like you. So that's super annoying. But there's an ego out there right now.
Gotcha.
There is an ego out there. Kids think nobody can say nothing to them, step to them, do anything to them. And it's true, like, you know, to an extent. But I think the biggest point is that like they've lost the ability to like respect leadership and to like see the bigger picture, right? So, you know, you come to the Boys and Girls Club, for example, you're making the choice to do that, by the way. It's not school. Like, you don't have to show up, right? But if you come here and then complain about what we're doing here, and like I'm trying to check you, or at least like to some degree have a conversation about that, and you get annoyed with me because of that, like, yo, you're coming into my space, complaining about what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of a sense of entitlement there.
Gotcha.
To think that I can do whatever I want, I can say whatever I want, and y'all can't step to me. And I think that for me is the biggest thing I want to correct this year for these kids, is like, you guys, yes, this is your space, but it's also a space that I've designed for you. Understood. It's a space that the Boys and Girls Club has provided. And if that's going to be the case, you got to rock with me for the little, you know, bits and pieces that I'm asking for you to rock with me. Because I promise you, like, if you just give it half your attention, you're going to see the benefit, the value, and you won't need me to push you in there. You're going to walk in there, you're going to run in there, you're going to want to be in there because you're going to see the value in what's being taught or what we're doing, and, you know, so on. So
nothing wrong with a little structure.
Yeah, man, a little structure helps. And unfortunately, in the schools, like since COVID, there's been a lack of structure.
Yeah.
And there's been a lack of care for what these kids are doing and the work they're doing. And I just want to show them, like, it doesn't take a lot. 2 hours is not a lot of your day. I talked about this the last time I was on. Like, there's not a lot of time that has to go into it for you to get something out of it. It's just like, if you actually apply yourself, if you come in with intention, you can really get something out of this that maybe you didn't expect with the part that we're expecting you to take away. So, again, helping them see the bigger picture is like really big for me this year. But I really hope that they can kind of see through all that other nonsense and focus on the direction we're heading and buy in. You know, that's the biggest thing, is getting them to buy in.
So it sounds like there's like a correlation between I know you're a mentor in like sports or like football players, and then with your new position as the team director, how did that what transferable skills did you bring from football over to like this team director position where like Quan said, like you said, kids, they don't want to listen. They feel entitled for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate those spaces where some of them just they don't want to listen?
Yeah, I think honestly it's being genuine and real with people first, right? I feel like when people can acknowledge or at least feel to some extent that you're being authentic, you're being real, they'll at least like hear you out a little more, right? So now it's like, now that I got your attention, because I know I'm a real person, like I always am, I'm very straight to the point. So now that I've got your attention for a minute, now the message matters in what I say. And I think that's what I really learned at Del Val was through my head coach, right? Like, he is not a yell at you, get in your face type of guy, but his message is always powerful. You know, everything he says, you can really feel. And I feel like I've fortunately enough was able to spend a lot of time with him to kind of pick up on those skills and figure out how to utilize them effectively, especially with this age group. But I'll tell you, I feel like I've used just about everything in terms of like, you know, that grind mentality. It's like that, you know, finding that time to like calm yourself down, relax yourself, and then get back into the groove of things, get back to the swing. I mean, it's from start to finish. I feel like everything is kind of transferred over. But really, I think like the biggest thing is like that culture, that team camaraderie component, right? Because all these kids come from different schools and they're coming into one system. It sounds a lot like recruiting for college football or any college sport, right? You're all coming from different schools. You all got different backgrounds. You all have different opinions. But we're all in the same space. It's a shared space. Definitely. So how can we make this something? How can we collaborate and make this something where we can all benefit from being here? Again, Del Val really showed me what that meant and how environment can create an animal, right? And that's what happened with me. Like, I was, again, when I was in high school, I wasn't the best athlete. And I think my environment deteriorated me as an athlete a little bit because mentally I wasn't all there. And I think that kind of carried over into Del Val a little bit. But once I, like, again, bought in, got into the culture, got with the guys in the locker room and, like, spent time with them out and really picked up on the message, I changed as an individual. And that's my goal. Like, with these kids, they think they have it all figured out. My goal is to help you change, get off that path, because you don't have anything figured out. And if you do, great, let's use those schools. Let's use those tools. Let's see how we can be effective with that and not ineffective or not, like, regressive with that. And, you know, again, it's getting the buy-in. It's getting them to come in and accept that and, like, leave that logo you wear at school all day at the door when you come to the Boys and Girls Club, because we got a brand new logo. It's totally different. It's different colors.
Yeah, they wear that
and we rock differently.
They wear that on their sleeve, boy.
But that's like, bro, I'm trying to get them to. I want them to be proud of being a Boys and Girls Club kid. And I want them to be proud of being there. I want them to really, like, again, maximize the opportunity. I can't put it into words how I feel like if I had these programs available to me when I was in high school, if I knew about it, right? Like, how it could have benefited me just where I am now even more, right? So that's perspective from me at 27. And I think me being so young allows for them to, like, feel that a little more. Like, you know, he is younger.
Relatable,
I'm more relatable, exactly. But again, it's just you got to see the bigger picture. You got to buy in and you got to trust. And a lot of that trust part is the hardest thing to get. But, again, it's spending that extra time, putting in that extra work, mentoring and you know, sitting down with these kids, having real conversations where that trust builds. And if you put enough time in, like, again, I think they'll feel the results come sooner than later.
Speak about leadership. You're in the leadership role. You talked about your college coach, like, instilling different things for you and into you. In regards to leadership, who else did you, like, look up to or, like, was a role model? Looking back now, like, oh, I actually learned something from this person in this role. I realized what he was talking about or she was talking about. Who are some of those people?
Oh, man. I feel like I have so many. I really give a lot of credit to my dad just for putting me around his football teams and all of his athletic teams that he coached, just to kind of see that up front and personal. I don't know if I could give credit anywhere else because my dad always told me, like, I'm a different individual and to not be the same with, you know, as anybody else, never fall in line. And I feel like I always, into every situation, took that with me. I'll never forget when I was in, like, 7th or 8th grade, you know, kids started, like, going to parties and having house parties, doing all that stuff. I got invited. I went over. I'm thinking it's going to be, like, just, like, we're chilling and there's alcohol, there's weed, you know, they got everything. And,
was turned up.
I left.
That was 8th grade?
That was 7th and 8th grade. And like I said, but I left, right, because I saw these individuals falling in line with a different path. right?
Yep.
And when that happened, honestly, was one of the first time I realized, like, yo, he's right. Like, I am very different.
Yeah.
I'm not, in accordance with a lot of the stuff that's happening now, or even where I'm moving into, right? So at a young age, I'm very fortunate. He gave me opportunities to be in leadership roles, and whether it was with my athletic teams, whether it was in the classroom. So very, very thankful for that. And I think just as I grew up and was around, again, great coaches, great teammates, right? There was perspective I got that just filtered into that and just ultimately helped me grow and learn as an individual.
So with your role, without saying too much, I don't know if you want to give away what you got coming up next, but
Sure.
what's some things that you plan on doing this upcoming after school program year? I don't know what you guys call it, but what are some things you're trying to implement as the new team director?
Yeah, so definitely don't mind sharing.
All right.
Use it as some promo. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pay attention.
Nah, we're trying to get a variety of different things. We have a career launch class, which is going to be, an opportunity for kids to kind of like paint that roadmap for where they want to end up being and the jobs they want to end up doing. I really like that class because a lot of the kids end up looking down one path and they're like, yo, this sucks.
Yeah.
I want to do something else.
Yeah.
So they have that aha moment, like, this wasn't for me. And like, I'm somebody who kind of went into that myself when I got to college thinking, oh, I want to work with kids. I have to be a teacher. And I never really looked at different ways to work with kids. So fortunately enough for me, my degree translated and allowed for me, to still be credible enough to step into a role like this, right?
Gotcha.
I don't want them to have to get there to experience that, right? Like, if you deal with it now, you never have to have that experience. It can be a lot smoother transition for you into adulthood. Right, so that class is super, super important to me. We have our CAP class, so that's college access program, and that's going to look a lot different. That's literally going to be like kind of modeling like what your dream school is. We're going to go through every single factor, right, and then we're going to look at the options, and then through those options, kind of building like portfolios for those schools, and ultimately like breaking it down. Like, do they have things around the college that are going to interest me and that I would like to do? What type of clubs, activities can I get myself involved in? I mean, literally down to the last detail, just to say, like, this is a school that I definitively know I should be at, that I need to apply to when I get to my senior year, or if I'm going to Mercer, that I need to be looking at after my first 1 or 2 years. Just so, again, we have a clear direction of where we're going, and we're not trying to figure that out in the moment. Again, I went to Albright College initially. A lot of people don't know that because, I was able to create so much success for myself at Del Val.
Yeah.
But Del Val was my home. Like, Del Val was the right school for me. And I looked away from all this other stuff because I was like, oh, well, Albright, I can go be the starting quarterback right away. Like, didn't care about the school, didn't care about what was around it. Even though, like, Reading was one of, like, I think, like, the third most dangerous city at the time when I went I went there, right? So didn't even consider my own. They're still not in great shape. But, like, didn't consider a lot of stuff that mattered, right? So those two classes are really our core classes. We're going to have public speaking classes, college writing. We're going to be doing, I'm trying to think, like, we're bringing in trade, we're bringing in dance teachers. I mean, like, just art. I mean, I'm trying to bring, like, a variety of different things. It's got to be diverse because I don't want you doing exactly what you did at school. I don't want you coming in here taking a math course, unless you need to go to tutoring, which I'll have a tutoring course for you. I'll have a real teacher in there who works with this content daily and can actually give you real feedback and can help you work through this instead of you going home and struggling through it, or you coming into school the next day and getting it done in lunch. Like, you can do it here, and you can spend an hour here. You can do 2 hours in study hall, right? Like, you can do however much time you want. So I think creating that space is super important. Having that time to work with somebody and talk to somebody, because we know tutoring service can be expensive, right? Just to pay for. So those are kind of like the bigger general classes that we'll have. I mean, we're going to have a mental health course through the Anchor House. They're going to be coming in and providing that service. So, like, giving kids skills and tools to manage the emotions they go through and figure out different things on their own. I mean, like I said, it's very diverse, and I'm really excited about it because, again, I know the benefit this would have offered me and even, like, my group of friends. So I'm excited for this group to come in and get this education, get this knowledge. So they get that head start moving into adulthood.
Have you had any kids?
No, you good. Yeah.
Have you had any kids that actually came to you and needed the help and asked for the help and wanted to take that extra step?
Yeah. Without sharing his name, I did have one student who had come to us, and he wore an ankle bracelet, right? He comes from a tough background, and he's still dealing with that situation.
Got you.
But in working with me, spending extra time with me at the club, whether it was, in the classroom, whether it was helping me out with different things I had to get done throughout the building, playing basketball with the kids, something I do very often, just to have that connective piece, right? He told me, I've already helped change his life and the
Gotcha.
path he was on. He's got some extra steps that he has to go through right now. But I made sure I communicated with his parents and mom and just said, whatever you need me to do, like, I'm there. He showed me the growth he made, and it was only in like a 3-month span, man. Like, it was very short time, but I think showing these kids that, like, you're there for them, and it having the opportunity to actually be there for them. It goes such a long way. I mean, that was the part I struggled with being a teacher, because I actually was teaching in schools 2 years before I got this job. So the last 2 years, I've been in and out of working out and all that stuff. I've been teaching. And in school, where the teachers get lost is they want to connect with the kids. They want to put that time in to talk to you and be there for you as an individual. But their job is based around the metrics of school, A's, B's, C's. And, like, if you don't do your work, you have to be punished. The person who punishes you is that teacher. And I can't give you extra time. I can't give you all this extra stuff. I would as a human,
As a person,
right? Because I
yeah.
know what you're going through. It's like, nah, I have to do this because this is my job.
This is my job. Yeah.
My
And
job is on.
there's a-
line.
there's a
my job's on
deadline.
line. If I don't do this and I start giving you extra, this, that, and the third, now I got to do it for every kid in the
Everybody,
class.
yep.
I'm lacking. My numbers are down. We're in bad shape. Like, it sucks. It sucks being a teacher right now. I think it does. But that pressure and all of that really helped me understand, like, this isn't the space I can do this in. This isn't the space I can be effective in. I got to be, somewhere like the Boys and Girls Club,
More
where I can
free.
have these real conversations. I could be an individual with them, and they can be an individual with me. They're a person, man. I think a lot of things, like, one thing being a father has taught me is that it doesn't matter how old you are. Like, you have skills, you have knowledge, you are, like, you're a person.
Yeah.
Like, I look at my son, like, a lot of kids are like, oh, he's a baby, and they'll talk to him like he's dumb, and I'm like, he knows every word you're saying.
Yeah,
And he
for
like he may
sure.
not be able to piece it back together himself, but, like, yo, he understands you completely. And I look at these kids the same way. A lot of people talk to them like they're dumb. A lot of people treat them like they're, like, second-class citizens. And I'm looking at it like, yo, you need to get the skills, the tools now. You need to do whatever's necessary to make people understand. Like, yeah, I'm a kid, but I know my stuff. Yeah, I'm a kid, but I know where I'm going in life. And
Definitely.
you can either be a part of that, or you can just get out of my way. But either way, I'm full steam ahead where I'm going. And like I said, man, I'm super thankful, like, for the Boys and Girls Club giving me that space to navigate through that and ultimately help these kids the way I ultimately wanted to.
To go along with that, going into the Boys and Girls Club, did you have, like, reservations? Like, did you have expectations? What was your thought process like? Oh, I got this job. Now, how am I gonna react or act when I get into this position?
Yeah, I had a ton of reservations coming in.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody, if you would know this, but I actually turned the position down initially.
I didn't know
I did, and it was a little bit of a fear on my side, right? Because I had found something. It wasn't necessarily healthy for me where I was at and what I was going on, like, just with my mental, but it offered me a lot, on the financial side, where I was like, if I take this step into the Boys and Girls Club, like, I'm taking a leap of faith. I had to put all my trust into Miss Christina Jones and just buy in myself. I think I knew it was the right move for me, like, as an individual, but I was just like, okay, like, can I make this adjustment? Is this right for my family? Like, will it give us more flexibility with the time? Like, because you're on a teacher's schedule, I'm done at 3:00. Now I work at the Boys and Girls Club. Sometimes I don't get out till 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that work for me? So there was a lot where I had to just, like, can I fit this into my schedule? Can I make it work? And I think, again, with the support of my fiance, Marissa, constantly having my back, mapping it out for me, putting it in perspective and painting it in a picture that I personally couldn't do for myself because I wasn't in the right headspace. And also, shout out to my brother too. I mean, he sat me down, had a long conversation about, just the health benefits of being and working in a space like that you care about being in and that, you feel good at. Without both of those, their testimonials, if you will, without them sharing me their thoughts, I'm not 100% sure I would have took that leap of faith and stepped into this role. But they ultimately helped me see the bigger picture, and with Christina believing in me the way she did, Reg believing in me the way he has, it made it, like, very, very soon as when I showed up, I realized, like, this was the right decision. This was a good.
So, So now we're here today. How do you like? Did you expect to impact these kids' lives the way you are, or did you like? Are you on? Do you think you're on a fast track, or you're right where you need to be?
I think, I think I'm definitely right where I need to be in terms of like what I have done, what's been established up to this point. But I do think there's opportunity for more, and I'm hoping to get the opportunities to do it myself. I just know like there is a gap right now in our community for sports, recreational sports, whether
For
it's
sure.
for the youth, all the way down like kindergarten, all the way through like adults. I don't think there's anything. Um, that's beneficial enough or fiscally available enough to people that will provide that positive of a service for them. I mean, guys just want to play basketball, for example. And like the only league I know of is Team 85, where you got to pay like $85 as an individual to play on that league. You'll play 8 games, you get a T-shirt as a reward.
It's a bit
if you
much.
win the league. It's like that's awesome, right? Like that's so cool. You get to do like I don't know, man. Like I think based on our space that we have an opportunity here to really divulge ourselves into this space and provide these services and opportunities for people, whether it's basketball, flag football, volleyball. I'd love to do an adult kickball league. I think that'd be so dope.
Sign me up.
But I'm just telling, like, there's
In there.
stuff I know people in the community would definitely get behind, and I think the one part that really even makes it better is like by bringing more people into the club, it's networking. Like we're
Yeah.
constantly having different people, different backgrounds coming in here, and who knows what they can offer to the kids and what they can give them, or whatever like that they can provide to ultimately help them in the long run. I
Gotcha.
think what's been cool is like seeing these like scholarship awards that we do, and like all these people chipping in from the community to help these kids. They do it because I didn't even know this was here when I initially moved here. I had no idea. And that exposure, through other outlets ultimately got them in the door. And now they've provided, say, scholarship money for kids. That's life-changing. Like, if I didn't have to
Definitely.
pay for my laptop going to college, like, and because you threw me $500 or $1,000 to buy it, I mean, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
you just supported me in a way that my parents couldn't support me. Like, my family couldn't support me, right?
Right.
So I think, like, that's my end goal is, like, setting up the teen program with stability, with a strong foundation, always having my hand in the teen side of things, but ultimately stepping into the sports role of things and really making that impact felt even more. And it's not just being with that teen demographic now, ultimately assisting K through adulthood, to give those kids, to give everybody essentially what I feel they could really benefit from having.
I like those sport league ideas. 'Cause back when I was a kid and I went to the Boys and Girls Club, there was always leagues, whether it be kids or adults, and
Yeah, they
I was
always
there
have
all the
something
time. I
going
didn't have
on.
a choice, but
Yeah.
I was there all the time just watching, and like this is cool, and I played in them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta talk to Pops about.
I think we're close. I think we're close,
Yeah.
and I know time will always tell.
Yeah,
It'll be the definitive factor. So I trust them though. I trust them. They trust me. We've had conversations. We've definitely put things out there and looked some things over. So it's all about the timing of everything. But
Right.
I really trust in the next year we'll get some nice things going. Not only for the kids but the community, and hopefully the proof will be in the pudding. They'll see it for themselves.
For the kids that want to join these classes or come to those, I guess, job fairs or things that you guys are having, do they have to be a part of the club?
So to be a part of programming, you do have to be a member.
Okay.
Now, the cool part about what we do is to be a member is free if you have a Mercer County residency.
Okay.
So, anywhere in Mercer County you live, you can come to the Boys and Girls Club for free. A lot of the problem is transportation.
Gotcha.
Kids can't really, move around that often. So we do provide transportation services, for the kids in the area, mostly into Ewing and Trenton. I don't think we go past Trenton. But like, that would be eventually my goal, right? Like getting there. The events are totally open to the community.
Gotcha.
So like we have a career fair, college and career fair coming up in October.
Okay.
That's open to the community. Anybody can come. We do ask people pre-register. Most people don't. They just show up. But, it is what it is, man. Like as long as you know we're having it, just be there, right? Like as long as they know we're having it, it's, obviously like in the long run, that's what matters. And I think, again, what's really cool is that like when kids come in and they come to these events, they eventually leave as members. They see, like, they'll have a conversation with me. They'll talk with the staff. They'll meet some of the kids, and they're like, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
So it kind of, the work does itself once I get you in the door. But, that's really been, one of the more challenging parts is just making sure that we're getting enough kids and the right kids in the door to support, what we're trying to get after. But I would definitely say, like, if you do live in Mercer County, past the Trenton, Ewing area, please, by all means, come by. We welcome, you guys with open arms, and we want to be able to help you guys the same way we're trying to help the kids we're working with now.
So a couple more questions because the sun is setting.
We in the wilderness.
Yo, you just made me lose a thought. The wilderness. Oh, so going back to your football days, are you still like training people during your off time, or have you gave that up?
No, we were just talking about it before. I'm
Yeah,
actually trying to pick that up even more.
Right.
I haven't put it into the stratosphere yet. I guess this would be like the first time I'm talking about it, publicly.
Tune in.
But yeah, I am trying, to pick that up a little bit. I do, obviously specialize in kicking and punting. But I've literally coached since I was like a kid myself. Coach kids since I was a kid. I always commonly make that joke. So, I'm trying to pick that up, whether it's with football and really doing athletic training, any position. But also I'm trying to get back into basketball too. Basketball was my first love. That's what I actually have the most experience in terms of playing and coaching. That's where I started. So trying to get back into basketball and coaching kids again, just trying to find different kids that I can work with and share the bigger message with, right? Because I think in working with me, what kids have found is like, yeah, he specializes in sports. Yeah, he's got, incredible background knowledge in athletics, but he has something else to him that I could take away from. And I think feeling that from them and them, giving me that feedback and ultimately, again, trying to pick my brain and grow as an individual. It's so much deeper than just the football training and the weight training or the, speed training. It goes deeper than that. So I've been fortunate enough, been able to work with some schools, been able to work with Del Val a little bit too, get up there and work with those guys. So still getting utilized, people asking me for, to help out, and that's cool. So if I can do it more, I'd love to. And, I just hope, people can continue to trust my, my expertise that I can, help them get where they're trying to go. But I got a couple clients right now that I've been working with, and it's been fun, just to even see, like, after 1 or 2 sessions, the jumps they're making. So trying to have my hand, not even just in the community, but all around if I can.
So what's I guess what we talked about it, but what's next for you besides like, the team director position and all the programs you're trying to implement? Is there anything else you want to talk about, whether it be football, the club, your life?
Yeah, I mean, I got life changing again. Marissa's due in the end of January, so
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you guys. So just enjoying life, man. That's really where I'm at. I never thought I'd be a dad this soon, honestly, but it's been the biggest blessing in my life, man. Kaysen has really helped me understand and see a lot more. I commonly, say that he really saved me, right? Because for a while there, I feel like I was so tuned in to the like football side of things, and like not that I was tuned out of like my personal life or the people around it. I just think that I wasn't seeing the bigger picture for a while. And I think, as an athlete, you can really deteriorate yourself and the people around you because you're just so focused on goals. That's what you're told your whole life.
So locked in.
Locked in, right? Like, go achieve your goals, go accomplish it. And to an extent, like, socially, I do feel like to an extent that people shame you if you don't make it, where you're supposed to. If you're a high school athlete, you don't get that D1 scholarship. Like, people don't care. You make it pro, but then you get cut. Like, you're a bum to people, So I think those opinions were catching up with me, and I was constantly trying to prove the wrong things to the wrong people. And when I finally like sat down and was honest with myself, and I said, why am I still doing this? Like, what's going on? Like where am I at? And does this resonate with where I'm going or even where I am today? A lot of those answers were no. And, as a man, you just got to be able to accept that and be like, okay, like, it's not going to be this. I got to make it somewhere else. So that's, where my ambitions and goals are now plugged into the club. They're plugged into my little boy and my fiance, and being present, being available, being intentional with everything I'm doing, and ultimately just trying to be the best me I can. Whether or not I'm able to help people in that process, kind of is what it is. As long as I got the support of those close to me and the opinions are that I care about, are being real with me, and they're always, honest and upfront. I know I'm in a good spot, and I know I can only continue to grow and get better as I'm moving forward, for sure.
Good.
Yeah, I think you covered everything, man.
So you dropped a lot of gems, but what's some advice you would give, I guess, the younger generation who might be listening, who might see this? Some of your kids might tune into this. What's some advice you would give them on just life, sports? It can be whatever.
Yeah, I would. I mean, there's a lot I could say, but I would say the biggest thing for me is like always be intentional. You know what I mean? Like never go into something without trying to get something out of it, even if it's just a conversation with an individual. Like, what can I learn from you? Like, what are you going to say that has something that I could take out of it? I feel like that's been one of the things that's really helped me grow and get better as a person. You know, staying intentional, staying true, being honest with yourself, being honest with the people around you. But, you know, I think something that I just touched upon before there is like those goals, right? Like always have goals, but understand goals change. And like, just like you change, everybody changes, like physically, mentally, we all change, we develop. So the goals have to stay centric to what you're most passionate about and never lose sight of that passion. Like that passion will always drive your goals. So, you know, for me, like, you know, my passion was playing sports and being an athlete. And, you know, I wanted to, you know, have that experience. But I think like the bigger thing for me was always been helping people and like specifically working with kids. I mean, again, I've coached kids since I was a kid, right? So working with kids, how can I help the next generation? How can I help my community? I think when I was talking about playing pro sports, that's what I always, like, that was where my end goals were giving back to the community, whether it was going to be donations or stuff like that through finances. But now it's like, okay, I don't make $1 million a year. I don't make, you know, a couple $100,000 a year. So like, how else can I touch the community? How else can I make my impact felt? Well, I could provide services. Well, I could be a mentor. Well, I can coach. I can, you know,
give some time.
I can give time. Like there's just so many other things where I can still achieve that goal, right? And still make that impact felt. So always be goal driven. Always have the things that you're chasing for and trying to accomplish. But you know, never be afraid to put it in a different space and put that energy in a different space, because I do think a lot of the things we do are interchangeable and transferable. So if it's not working in one space and it's just not coming together there, take that leap of faith, take that jump, you know, to get yourself where you need to be.
All right, so last question I like to ask all the guests. I did it 2 years ago. I didn't follow through with it, but this time I will. We're going to be more consistent on the podcast. So if you had to see somebody on this podcast that you know, who would it be?
Man, that's a good question. I'm going to say Kyle Smith, one of the Smith guys, Smith brothers from Ewing, the coaches, the basketball coaches.
Oh, Kyle,
those guys.
Yeah.
Those guys are doing. They're doing some great things. They've been doing some great things in the community. I think it's kind of been underappreciated how long they've been in coaching and how many kids they really have helped hit the next level, whether it's, you know, D1 to D3. They show a lot of love, a lot of support, whether it's to my pops or myself. You know, we don't talk, we don't see each other, but they're always showing love. So those are two guys who are doing a lot of great things in the community, been doing great things in the community, and just people that ultimately deserve to be highlighted and have their story shared and you know, put their message out there, because I do think there's a lot that people can take away and take out of that, where again it could offer them a benefit for sure.
Well, Steve, I appreciate you again for pulling up on us.
Of course, man. Thank you all for having me.
You know it.
It's always appreciated for you to come through. We learned a little more about you outside of the sports. If you want to hear the sports side, go back 2 years ago and watch that video.
Great
but we
episode.
appreciate you. It was great. Shout out to Keita. But we just thank you again. Please subscribe, like, comment, follow us on Instagram, the Playmaker Podcast Network, TikTok, the same thing. What else we got? Twitter, the same thing. You know, everything.
X. What's it called? X?
Oh, it's called
X
now?
now?
Excuse me. X. I'll drop the link below. Shout out to Steve. Shout out to my guy, DJ Bean, pulling up.
You know
the sun is setting, so we got to get out of here. Peace.
Appreciate y'all.